Sometimes a writer does everything right. They reject the familiar arc, they refuse the guaranteed payoff, they take the risk case file 7 demanded, and the story still fails. Not loudly, not catastrophically, quietly. It doesn't get rejected for breaking rules. It gets set aside for being difficult to place, hard to sell, unclear where it belongs. So here's the question we're opening with. What happens when a story refuses victory and the system has no language for what it's trying to do? In the late 20th century, a different model of transformation began to take shape, one that didn't centre conquest or return, one that didn't promise resolution at all. It came to be known as the heroine's journey, not a replacement for the hero's path, but a response to what it leaves behind. Where the hero's journey moves outward towards action, mastery and recognition, the heroine's journey turns inward towards fracture, towards disconnection, towards a self that can't be redeemed through triumph. This is the Investigation Anatomy of Story, my personal journey to find the hidden patterns beneath all stories. In this case file, I'll examine why some stories fail not because they lack courage, but because they tell the truth about change. A truth that doesn't resolve, doesn't return clean, and doesn't always look like success from the outside. Some roads don't lead across deserts or neon skylines. Some roads curl inwards, tight, coiled, steep, the kind you don't brag about walking. That's the heroine's journey. Not a quest for a sword or a throne, but a search for the part of yourself you dropped along the way. While Campbell mapped the outer world, tests, trials, monsters with names, Maureen Murdock went the other direction. She charted the wound, the split, the quiet pressure that shapes a life until someone finally cracks. Her journey isn't about victory, it's about repair, stitching the self where it was torn. This isn't a myth, it's anatomy, emotional, psychological, the stuff every writer feels, but most are too scared to diagram. Here's the problem. For decades, screenwriting land treated Joseph Campbell like gospel and slapped the same arc on everything that moved. Hero leaves home, fights monster, comes back upgraded, roll, credits. It's clean, it sells, but it leaves a lot of bodies off the record, especially stories about women, about people crushed between roles, or anyone whose enemy isn't a dragon out there, but a split in here. You've seen it 100 times. Strong female character shows up, talks like a grizzled SAS soldier, wins the boss fight, does a victory pose, and still feels hollow. Not because she's weak, but the story never admitted what actually hurt. The heroine's journey was built for that missing wound, not girl version of hero's journey, a different problem, a different engine. Murdock didn't sit down to write a new beat sheet for summer blockbusters. She was looking at real people, mostly women, torn between two worlds, who they were told to be, who they actually are. The heroine's journey is about repairing a split self in the world that profits from that split. And that's the key. Not becoming powerful, not winning the system's approval. Think of it less like a quest and more like a diagnosis. An X-ray for certain types of stories. The overreacher who burned down her own life to succeed. The good daughter who betrayed herself to keep the peace. The warrior who put on armour so young she forgot who she was without it. If your story lives in that neighbourhood, this is your map. We don't need 14 sacred stages. We just need the bones. First, there's a fracture. The heroine learns that something essential about her, softness, emotion, creativity, culture, her body, her background, is wrong, weak, or in the way. So she does what survivors do. She cuts that part off, leaves home, rejects her roots, buries her instincts. She decides, if I'm going to survive, I have to play by their rules, not mine. This is not a cute leaving the Shire moment. This is self-abandonment dressed up as ambition. Next, she steps into a world built by someone else's values, usually coded as rational, hard, competitive. On the surface, she's killing it. Promotion, medals, applause. Inside, the meter starts running. Every victory costs her a little more of herself. This is where a lot of scripts stop and call it empowerment. It's not. It's adaptation under pressure. Then comes the hollow win. She reaches the summit, the job, the throne, the mission success. On paper she made it, and it feels like nothing. Or worse, like betrayal. This is your false victory beat. The mask has done its job too well. You can't outrun yourself forever. Something cracks, a failure, a loss, a line crossed. The system she bled to belong to shows its teeth, or simply doesn't care if she breaks. This isn't just a plot twist, it's burnout with a soul. Now she goes down, not to fight an external monster, but to sit in a locked room with the thing she's been dodging since page 1. Shame, grief, rage, culture and generational weight. In a cheap version, this is a quick cry montage. In the real version, it's slow and flattering and painful. She has to face two ugly truths. The world hurt her, and she helped it by abandoning parts of herself to fit in. If you're writing this, don't flinch. Stay in the room. Out of that descent comes something dangerous. Choice. She starts picking up what she threw away. Not to go back. That person was half-formed. She's building someone new who remembers where she came from without being chained to it. She refuses the false split. Maybe she changes the system. Maybe she walks away. Maybe she builds something smaller but honest. What matters is this. She's not at war with herself anymore. The heroine's journey isn't soft. It isn't niche. It isn't therapy disguised as structure. It's a pattern about internal division under pressure, often shaped by systems that demand self-erasure as the price of belonging. That's why it shows up so often in stories about women. But it can belong to anyone whose survival meant cutting off a piece of themselves to be allowed in the room. Use the map. Don't erase where it came from. If your story is just chosen one kills bad guy, this will feel like overkill. If your story feels like therapy with car chases, you're in the right office. You've already seen these patterns, different genres, same inward road, split, prove, hollow win, collapse, descent, reclaim, integrate. Next time you watch something, don't ask, is this empowering? Ask, does this character come home to themselves or just trade one mask for another? The hero's journey crosses thresholds out there, caves, battlefields, star systems. The heroine's journey crosses a closer line, the moment you stopped selling pieces of yourself for a seat at someone else's table. So what have we learned? Not every story that fails is broken. Some are simply being judged by the wrong lens. The inward road doesn't promise victory. It doesn't reward conquest. It doesn't end clean. Models like the heroine's journey don't chart success. They chart fracture, dislocation, and the long work of integration. When stories like this stumble, the notes come back familiar. Unclear arc, passive protagonist, unresolved ending. But those aren't diagnoses. They're symptoms of a mismatch. The story didn't fail creatively, it failed to perform the kind of change that systems know how to reward. Some transformations don't look like progress, they look like retreat, doubt, or quiet refusal. And when structures can't name that kind of change, it calls it a flaw. That's the danger of mistaken outcome for meaning. Not every story is trying to win. Some are trying to survive. And when we judge those stories by outward measures, we don't just misread the work, we teach writers to abandon truths that were never meant to resolve. And if you want the case files in your hands, there's a downloadable PDF waiting below, your written brief for everything we've covered here and how to use it in your own writing. Details are in the description. I'm Terry Dray, and this is the investigation Anatomy of Story. Case file 8 is now closed. Till the next one opens, be seeing you.